The hardest part about this particular argument is that Devon completely empathizes with Cameron. He can't imagine being in that situation, made to take medication that changes him so fundamentally that he's not in full control of his movements or even breathing. The coyote is justified in being angry, sad, childish, and sometimes outright spiteful. That doesn't mean this isn't unsettling, seeing the coyote lash out and cry in ways he'd never seen him come close to before. At points, it feels like he's watching the deconstruction, or rather, destruction, of a life in real time. It leaves his stomach feeling hollow and sick, like it did days after Brian had a go at it. The thought of the old bear makes Devon so angry that now he wishes the man was still alive. At least then there'd be a chance for him to try and knock out a few more of his teeth during the victim impact statement, before I can tase him or whatever. What?
If he was like the victim impact statement, like in a courthouse, probably.
Oh.
If he was alive, he would be like adjourned. That's not the word. Brought into the court to arraigned. That's the word I was thinking of, I think, right? Arraignment. Anyway, terminology. I think he's saying he would attack him in the courthouse.
And the stress continues to build as Cameron's condition remains unstable. The transfer was scheduled for November, and Devon is trying to type up an extremely apologetic and professional email to explain the situation, and also request a possible meeting to delay the transfer. It's a reasonable request, especially considering the state of the world at the moment. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, his breath picks up speed. Confused, Devon watches as the edges of his vision begin to darken. He can't figure out why he suddenly felt as if he were going to pass out. The first thing that comes to Devon's mind was Arturo's older brother, who died of a pulmonary embolism after surgery. The one that the cat had talked about casually while high, even though Devon knew he was still devastated by it. Devon stands up from his desk, walking, then sinking to the ground as the room spins. Cam, I need help, please. I can't. He simultaneously questions whether that's a good idea or not. Cameron seeing his boyfriend dying in front of him wouldn't exactly help his mental state. So it's better that he's probably sleeping like a rock right now. He pulls out his phone as he's on his knees, having pressed the 9 and 1 before a very groggy, sedated Cameron comes in, his expression of bleary confusion turning to fear. Don't worry, I just can't catch my fucking breath.
I thought that was a Sam thing talking.
Yeah, I don't know the rules there entirely. A look of recognition comes over the coyote's face, and kneeling in front of Devon, he presses the bear's head against his chest.
Devon, it's okay. We're okay. Breathe with me.
Devon's not sure if that's what the problem is, but after a few seconds it does stop.
Are you okay? I've never seen you like that before.
Devon sees Cameron's neck twitch multiple times, and immediately feels like an idiot. Still, Cameron sleeps on the couch in the same room, and while Devon feels like he should be the one doing the comforting right now, he's glad to have Cameron there.
He had a panic attack?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
The roles were inverted for the first time there. Devon steps out of the gym, taking a deep breath of the frigid February air. There aren't many cars or people on the street this early on a Saturday morning.
Probably because they're sleeping in like they should be.
Devon instinctively begins to reach out for Cameron's paw, but he's not there. He hasn't been there for a while now. Almost a year. Oh boy. No.
Yeah.
Well, what he used to be is here. At home. In the urn sitting on Cameron's old dresser, along with all the coyote's other little possessions that Devon had kept. It hurts even more, because he's almost certain that Cameron would have loved this city. He'd do a better job remembering that Cameron isn't right next to him if...
Quit thinking about me like I'm dead.
I'm not. I'm thinking about you like you're physically gone.
I do miss being physically present. I guess I could be dead, but it doesn't really matter.
You're not dead, I'm just like your vessel now.
Like, one, that's a really unhealthy way to deal with loss.
Yeah.
But two, the ramifications of this in this particular setting are profoundly bad. Like, truly not good in the Sam thing sense.
There's also just such an unnerving concept of, yeah, like, is this genuinely Cameron's consciousness? Is it some kind of, like, supernatural replay image of him? Or is it just made up by Devon?
Yeah.
Like, is it just in his imagination?
Yeah.
Because yeah, like it's been brought up a few times that, like, from people that have played the Smoke Room, that, like, Sam's behavior in Echo doesn't really feel like the same character on any real level.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't feel in character to people how he's behaving with Chase. And so there's this idea that, like, it's not, like, what if it isn't Sam? It's just, like, some kind of, like, quartz mine replay thing, as suggested by Janice's stories. And so even here, there's, like, 3 interpretations of who Cameron even is here.
Well, I mean, we made a comparison in the Signalis essay, or spoiler cast, I mean, to, like, the idea of Orion being that setting's, like, Alessa, and how Alessa Gillespie in Silent Hill slowly is, you know, she has this Cheryl side of her, and then she has this, like, good Alessa and then, like, bad Alessa that's sort of, like, affecting things. And, like, what if the Sam that is possessing Chase and potentially possessing Cameron and now potentially possessing Devon isn't necessarily Sam, but a soured, sort of concentrated form that came from Sam, right? I think that's at least how I view it. So even if it doesn't match up with the Smoke Room, it still is something that was born from him. And, like, taking that interpretation of this is, like, profoundly nerve-wracking to see Devon go through this.
Yeah. Going by Janice's explanation, they say that, like, essentially, like, these memories are stored in the quartz, supposedly. There's, like, the hyper-literal interpretation of the explanation, but they're then infected with and distorted by all of the other aspects. Like, all of these, everything else that's happening essentially mixes in. It's like, this would be...
like a congealed hive mind of trauma.
Another instance of the amalgam, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like, which we can even tie Mira in here potentially. But, like, there's this idea that, like, the Sam you get in Echo is a Sam that has been distorted by all of the pain that has been brought on in Echo since he died. Not just the 2 hysterias, but also, like, everything Brian has done for 40 years.
Yes, and, like, all of the lingering pain of all of the people that have been affected by these things and stuff like that, just congealing into, I mean, you said an amalgam, but earlier in this game, Arturo
he was referring
and Cameron,
to everyone as an amalgam individually, which is making me think of Ed Asterisk constantly.
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, that's tying into, like, a more cosmic sense of this all, but...
God, I want to know that how Artie's doing, but I also don't I super don't want
Yeah.
to be have it confirmed that like he's also suffered this like permanent damage. I'm terrified to hear back from Artie at all.
I truly hope he's like drinking Mountain Dew and eating Doritos on Call of Duty on his couch. Like that's what I want.
I want him to be doing the most boring shit right now.
Yeah, I want him to be playing FIFA. Like, just let the man live.
Dude just fucking was nice one night and got shot in the head. Like, leave him the fuck alone.
That is such a creepy word. Just say I'm like your passenger. By the way, you reek.
It's Saturday, and I don't have work. Besides, I'm not taking a shower when their air dryer temperature is room temperature.
I mean, I didn't say I didn't like it. It's from a fresh workout. God, Howley, come on.
Horny ghosts. Devon grunts as he makes his way through the parking lot towards his car.
You were pushing yourself really hard, to be honest. Take it easier next time?
Taking it easy is what got you hurt. Anyway, the more echoes we can kill off, the better.
Brings a new meaning to the term ghost hunter.
What is happening?
Yeah, I wonder.
Is this not... Did we just jump to the other Devon?
Yeah.
I think... I thought... Okay.
That could very well be
I thought we went forward until the next year's February, and Cameron has now taken his life at some point. But think
it's very
this is
possible
the Devon
we skipped timelines. Yeah, you're right.
I think this
might be what this is doing.
I think this is the Devon that held Cameron as he was basically decapitated by a shotgun.
Yeah.
And that is extremely dark, but also a strange relief, given what I thought had happened.
Yeah, we'll have to see what this is. I'm interested.
They're going around killing echoes.
Yeah. Interesting. I doubt we can have that much of an impact, Devon. This shit is old, ancient even. It's a lot bigger than us in a lot of different ways.
I just want to see how well this works out. If it can be done, maybe we can tell others about it. Start a movement.
To kill off haunted places at the source? But how many people have their dead boyfriend in their head giving them psychic abilities?
Well, I won't tell them that part, just the psychic part.
Gonna take credit for my abilities?
Hey, I'm learning to fight too. You see how much I've bulked up. Devon flexes his muscles underneath his winter coat and padding, muscles he wishes he'd had when he'd fought Brian.
I had a really goofy thought right now, which is like, what if this is like a zero escape setup where they're like sending their consciousness back into the past to be a good fighter to take on Brian? Like, this would just be, it's too much. It's too much. No, don't want to even fathom that.
The less we think about Zero Escape, the better.
I didn't know you could punch ghosts. I wish you'd get a different coach. He beats on you way too hard.
I knew what I was getting into. Anyway, remember, the source. Usually it's some shitty person feeding these places. Anyway, exercise of any kind is about the best feeling natural thing anyone can do. You should try. Devon catches himself halfway through saying it. I would love to hit the point where exercise gives you that fucking high people keep saying it does. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, same.
Have not reached that point yet. Even though he knows it's coming, and even though he tries to stop it, the imagery of Cameron's ruined face flashes through his mind. There we go. Okay.
Yep.
He should just be happy that the coyote is still talking to him. That he's still with him. Kind of. I miss you.
Please don't do that, Devon. I'm right here.
I want to hold you.
You basically are, and I'm giving you a big emotional hug right now. I might also be feeling out your muscles too, because you have bulked up nicely.
Devon laughs and wipes his eyes. Thanks, Cam. Cameron watches all this, but not that Cameron in Devon's head. The Cameron that avoided the shotgun, that survived. He's had these dreams a few times. At first, he simply thought them to be traumatic nightmares from a traumatic event. But this is one of those dreams that feels so real, he almost can't tell he's dreaming. They're not really nightmares either. Usually they're mundane, kind of funny, and kind of sad. The dreaming Cameron, for some reason, doesn't trust this passenger Cameron at all.
Yeah.
This version of himself feels off, almost like there isn't even a soul to go with him.
We know the thing jumps. Like the thing that was in Cameron moves between people.
Like, you think it's the replay thing from the forest? It's just in Devon?
I think it is. I think that's Sam. I think it's all the same thing moving between people, slowly changing as it amalgamates different pieces of people that get left behind.
It's just this tragic window into somebody who lost Cameron and doesn't have him, but thinks he does.
Yeah.
It gets into all the transporter problem shit, which, like, I have this whole... One day I have this essay in me where I deal with the idea of, like, the transporter problem and how, like, even, like, the way that transporters work in any science fiction, you are killing that person and making a copy of them that just believes there was continuity, and how that directly...
copy and paste.
Yeah, but that's the thing, the copy and paste part is, like, that directly relates to AI and this idea of, like, living on in a computer or as some other kind of copy. Like, you can create something that thinks it's the original person and that can fool all outsiders into thinking it's the original person, but that person's still gone. Like, Cameron is ashes, and he is not, and the Cameron who experienced that death is not living on to, like, romantically haunt his boyfriend for the rest of his years. Something is just not even puppeteering that. It's just impersonating him. Be it something that he's hallucinating or something else entirely, which it seems like it is the entity, because this Cameron also witnesses it.
Yep. And doesn't trust it.
Just deeply distressing. Otherwise, he sounds and acts just like he does, or did, before the diagnosis. It makes him wonder if he'd trade off given the opportunity. Cameron isn't waking up, so with little else to do, he reaches out and mentally and digs into this other Cameron a bit deeper. What he sees lasts only a second. After tearing out Brian's throat, this Cameron immediately began communicating with him.
Yeah.
But he began.
I know what's happening.
I'm trying to.
I know exactly what's happening.
But he began speaking to Devon shortly after the younger bear had ripped out Brian's throat. It's not an illness, not like what Cameron has, but it's still Echo. It's part of that town, and Cameron doesn't want this Devon to...
Devon, he's back.
It's always with the recording sound, too. The artificial recording noise.
Yep, it is the entity.
Yeah.
And it does jump. It jumps from people at the time of death, and usually through murder.
A feeling difficult to describe comes over Cameron. It's something from that dead Cameron, that entity that acts and talks like Cameron. The thing that's currently attached to that Devon. He's tied up, bound with a rope, with a foul-tasting rag gagging him. The big bear has been gone for over an hour, but no matter how hard he tries, he can't make the zip ties and chains move. And then, his stomach turns, and the meal Brian had brought him at the bar starts to come back up. He's going to throw up, but he's chained down on his back with a gag in his mouth. He's going to throw up, and then he's going to drown. Vomit floods his mouth. Cameron leaps out of bed, one paw over his muzzle. He stubs his toe horrifically on the doorframe to the bathroom, bending back the claw so that it begins bleeding. Come on, man.
Yeah, rough.
But he makes it to the toilet in time to retch up the small amount of whatever was in his stomach.
I wonder if that's... Oh, no. Okay, this is just another one of his victims. Gotcha.
His name was Alan. A rat, Cameron thinks. But the coyote can't remember the last name. The last name of the man who drowned in his own vomit. Cameron sobs, both for himself and for the poor young rat that lived a short, hard life, only for it to end by choking on the shitty food Brian lured him in with. After a minute, the coyote calms down and listens, thankful that Devon is an incredibly heavy sleeper. That had definitely happened, and even though the police stopped trying to interview him after learning about his schizophrenia diagnosis, he'd put in an anonymous tip. Cameron knows there's at least twice as many victims that are known, and he plans to report every single one that he sees.
Dang.
That's awful. Ugh, fuck.
Yeah.
Look at that background painting.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Spirit trees, geysers. There's something going on there. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know.
Summer 2021. Half a year later, Cameron finally starts to feel as if he can go out and at least live a partial life. Tapering down his meds along with exercise definitely helped. Is why he came here with Devon to visit Arturo. Yay, maybe.
Yay. Oh, look, they're eating nachos on the couch with Arturo. They're gonna play FIFA. I'm so happy for them.
I hope Arturo's like an MMA fighter now.
I don't want him to get a traumatic brain injury. I hope he's like an
actor that plays MMA fighters.
There you go. I hope he's a YouTube content creator who makes like
he's a track
easy
star.
clickbait stuff that he doesn't need to do anything. He doesn't need to do any work to get paid for doing.
I just mean like I want him to be extremely athletic because it's the polar opposite of what I'm worried might have happened.
Yes, that's true.
When he sees his old friend, he feels a bit better, just based on the feel of his amalgamation. It's fuller, still damaged, but it's also at peace. Cameron knows that feeling. He's different now, and he's accepted that. But he's still Arturo, which he's come to accept too. He's just different now, changed, like everyone changes. A terrible, dramatic change, but that's life. Things always tend to get worse, but then they tend to get better too. Well, Cameron simply wants to see his old friend. He also wants to know a few other things. His methods are morally questionable, but he justifies it since no one's telling him. An hour before they get there, Cameron eats a piece of chocolate from his backpack he brought for their stay at a motel.
I know this chocolate.
You know this chocolate?
This is the chocolate.
What?
This is the chocolate that I took, but I took too much.
Oh. Oh, you know? Oh, it's loaded chocolate. Okay.
Yeah. This is Shrooms chocolate.
Devon complains when Cameron says that it was the last one, but the coyote knows the bear would lose his mind if he knew what exactly Cameron did, which was him microdosing psilocybin. Yep. Okay. Your knowledge is like a fucking sixth sense for this narrative.
Yeah, immediately. To be fair, one square of the chocolate isn't gonna send you to the moon, but yeah.
stupid, idiotic, unbelievable, when it would cause him severe, lasting damage. It might have been what triggered his schizophrenia, but his abilities increased tenfold, even on this tiny amount. Besides, it made him feel better. Of course, he'd tell Devon when more time has passed, but the bear has shown almost zero interest in the paranormal as of late.
Just lying to each other.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he'll just tell him he's taking them for the mood lift. For now, he just wants to take in the emotions and conversation.
I love his shirt.
Yeah, what's the... Esteem, love, belonging, safety. It's the hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah,
I can't read
like
the top
look at him.
Though.
He went from being like potentially the game's toxic dude bro character to the most wholesome and like just wonderful person.
I just want Arturo to be okay.
Me too. He's the best. I just want to give him a hug.
Actively distressing.
It's just interesting that Cameron and him are kind of foils in this regard, and that Arturo was also horrifically physically maimed and has lasting psychological damage, but instead of falling deeper down the spiral, he's moving forward and like amalgamating and getting his sense of self back, even if it's not the same, whereas Cameron is like further sort of justifying and damaging himself. Well, what I'm trying to do is get rid of this damn limp. That's what people noticed most.
Cameron smiles pleasantly despite the fact that Arturo's more guarded and fortified mentally than anyone else he'd met, which is probably the last thing he had expected.
I actually didn't even notice. Oh, well, you will next time you see me walk. Anyway, I hear you're working on your masters, Devon?
Every stutter, every struggle feels like a physical blow to Cameron, but he tries not to show it. He knows Artie doesn't want useless pity right now, and Cameron always hated it too. Yep, up at the university at Deseret.
Ah, Utah. Sweet. In what? Mechatronics or?
Robotics.
Of course. And how's that, how's that progressing?
Good. About a year in.
Damn. They decided to finance your degree that quick?
I'm at the same company. It was always part of the plan once we moved. I still gotta graduate for them to reimburse my tuition, of course.
No pressure. I don't know how he does it all. Work, school, cooking, gaming, and you're good at all of it. And that's just like him. He'd party and drink the night before a final, then ace it while hungover.
Cameron's close enough to Devon to see the skin flush under his fur. While some might find Devon to be overly humble, it has more to do with imposter syndrome. Cameron knows it must be awkward to be praised for not having to study or work as hard as fellow students and coworkers. Despite that, goodbye music, Cameron still feels proud knowing his boyfriend's already inching into a leadership position. So, how are things going for you? What are you doing these days? Weren't you thinking about going back to work at that specialized school?
Yep, Spectrum Solutions Academy. Already back. Still in RBT, working with kids with low functioning autism.
How is it?
I'm gonna cry because Arturo is just the nicest person. He's so perfect. He's such a nice dude.
He might be the best person in the Echoverse, which is why it's just like brutal what happened to him. Truly as just like the most wholly formed and just well-functioning person in the entire canon at this point. He was already helping his girlfriend and everything, and then like he just got shot in the head and just got right back up And he's like, now I'm going to work with kids with autism. And just while dealing with his own shit and his own rehabilitation and everything.
Man, like what a profoundly like empathetic perspective too. That's incredible. Can we just have an arty game? But I don't want it to have any trauma or bad in it. I just want it to be like a day in Artie's life.
It's just a slice of life hangout. And then nothing
I want
went
the
wrong.
Arturo dating sim. Great. It was almost like going back home. I'm supposed to have like 2 clients, but they've got 5 on me now. They were so happy to see me, but then can tell something's a bit off about me though. Sounds a bit rough. Is your recovery still making progress?
Artie visibly draws into himself a bit.
I like to call it a process these days. Most of the recovery is over, I think. Oh, I see.
It's silent for just a second too long. Cameron is a bit slow to respond, having finally deciphered Artie's general thoughts, feelings, and emotions. In that moment, that guard had come down, and Cameron realizes Artie knows he's psychic. Of course, he told him that. But now he knows it, truly believes it, and for the past almost 2 hours, he'd realized how much of this happened because of Cameron.
2 years. That's a long time to hold like a little bit of resentment.
Arturo is afraid of Cameron. The cat senses the strangeness, the offness of who Cameron is now. Arturo also wonders if it's possible that the coyote brought a piece of Echo into the house with him.
Ding, ding, ding.
That shadow entity. It entered him and never came back out, as far as Arturo knows. Who's to say it's not still? Maybe it's like a management phase. That's what Cam calls it, anyway. Right, honey? Devon, probably confused by the tension, tries to add more to the conversation.
That's right. That piece of shit hurt you pretty badly too, huh? Yeah, really. It's the schizophrenia I was diagnosed with afterwards that I'm still trying to manage.
Cameron suddenly decides to just tell Arturo about his own struggles, if only to look for some sympathy, understanding. It seems unfair not to, for some reason, anyway. For a moment, Arturo's expression becomes one of genuine sadness.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, Cameron. Was it from what happened? I hope it wasn't the weed. No, I think it's what happened after that pushed me over the edge. I see. That makes sense. Do you think they would have happened anyway, eventually? Do they think it would have happened anyway, eventually?
Cameron shrugs.
Maybe. They think I might have been in a prodromal state for years. It's obvious I was on the brink for a while. It runs in the family, so...
But he'll never know. For that moment, though, he feels like he and Artie have made a connection. Artie understands that they have completely different problems, but they're both life-changing, and the two of them are bound to these problems for life. Cameron will also never be the same. He has a lifetime of struggle ahead of him. But then Artie senses that darkness, that bit of echo, emanate from Cameron again, and he mentally recoils. It's been a rough road, but we managed to find some stability at the end of last year.
God, it's such a pain in the ass trying to settle on the right meds. That took Maria a few years, I think. Hey, Maria.
There's some rustling from the hallway, and a young leopard comes into the living room. Maria clearly having been very nearby in the hall.
Why'd you go?
Just wanted to give you guys some space.
We were just talking about how long it can take to adjust to meds. Maybe you can give him advice again?
She leans in to give Arturo a kiss, and Arturo takes it without a single hint of embarrassment or annoyance.
How do you make just the most fucking cinnamon roll character in a furry visual novel? Like, how do you do it? You know, I've said some things about Raven in the past, but yeah, he is kind of like advanced Raven. He just is a ball of sunshine in the midst of this game.
Another solid rock in Artie's life, and one that will stay until the end. While Cameron would normally never invade someone's mind like this, the coyote doubts he'll have many chances to do so in the future, and he needs to know if Artie's on a good track or not. Cameron feels another pang of guilt, remembering how Devon would kiss him in public, on the campus of their old university. Even there, probably the most liberal space in the state, he was ashamed. Maria turns to Cameron, and because they themselves had been friends for years, even a little longer than he's known Devon, so he can tell that this is weirdly set up. Oh, yeah. Antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers. It feels like I've been through almost all of them.
I hate them so much. They make me tired and restless, and at the same time, like, I want to crawl out of my fur. And then I felt like a zombie for a while, but after they lowered it, I'm doing better.
Oh, I don't like this shot at all.
Yeah. I mean, is this Maria's perspective? Maybe.
Cameron likes Maria a lot. And just like Devon and Arturo, they slip back into the old swing of things. It's nice. But he can't help but notice how he's been swept out of the conversation with Arturo.
Anyway, the main reason I went back to work this early is because I needed something normal. Sure, things are harder now. Stuttering. My memory is shit. I can't really depend on the right side of my body anymore. Fuck. Is it nice not being cooped up in here living on disability? They do say my inhibitions are a bit lower than they used to be.
I swear, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I haven't even noticed that.
Oh yeah, they said something about too many words, too little tact, like 3 years ago.
The conversation returns to a natural, comfortable flow, but only after Cameron has left the conversation again. I can kind of tell that it might be affecting you now, but sometimes it's hard to tell the side effects from symptoms of psychosis, especially the residual negative symptoms. I mean, positive symptoms are obvious, but making your thoughts flow normally again? Making yourself want to go back outside, talk to people, live? That tends to come back last. And sometimes it comes back a bit different.
That's, I mean, that's also true of like, it's like commenting on the pandemic and the lockdown and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes doesn't come back at all.
Now, while he tries to hold a conversation about psychotropic medications with Maria, he realizes how much things have changed. In fact, if Cameron's vision holds true, this will be one of the last of a handful of times he'd speak to Artie. It hurts. It leaves Cameron feeling a deep pit of guilt, shame, and even a little anger. But mostly because it's unfair, and he can't blame anyone. But as he watches his old friend laugh and talk to Dev, almost like what happened never happened, Cameron sees a long, solid friendship ahead of them, and he's happy for that. Artie starts talking to Dev again, and Cameron realizes, even without having to read minds, that Maria is specifically there to keep Cameron distracted, to keep him away from Arturo. That finally shuts up the psychic part of Cameron's brain. Rather than leaving a hollow feeling, he's left feeling like he'd been punched. Why are they treating him like a monster? Like he's the one. The final thought he receives is from Maria, and deep down, under her concerns for Cameron's diagnosis, she's wondering if he's prodding at Arturo's mind.
She knows too.
Yeah. Arturo can sense him. His own sensitivity is subtle, almost too understated to be picked up on, but it's there. And that's why he feels like Cameron is carrying Echo with him. That feeling. Does that mean his abilities are from the same source as Echo? Did something else happen? But then Maria mentioned something about motor tics and nearly unbearable restlessness, and Cameron focuses back on their conversation. The reason he'll only see Arturo 2 or 3 more times in his life isn't because of Arturo or Maria. It's because Cameron knows he can't come back here and cause them stress like this. Cameron is no longer part of or welcome in their lives, and he won't impose himself again. The shame of being caught, even though he hadn't really been caught, hangs heavy over the rest of the visit. No one seems to notice, though, and despite the hurt from learning their true feelings about him, Arturo's future is, if he is to sum it up, a happy one.
I don't want to blame Cameron here necessarily, but I would like to say recognizing the end of things would have saved the Echo cast quite a lot of hurt. So maybe the nuance here is that it is okay for that friendship to end.
Yeah. Boy, we are caught up to now.
Yeah, it's right now.
Like this was like
Not
at the
exactly,
time.
but-
This was like at the time of writing the update. Yeah, for us it's now late April 2023. Like this is extremely real time writing now. March 2023. Time goes on, and it brings good, and it brings bad. The pandemic falls into the background. Political instability comes to the forefront. Money becomes tighter. But the world keeps moving, as it tends to do. It still leaves Devon almost breathless at the idea that he'd changed their lives in one weekend. While Devon has never really personally hated anyone to the point that he just wanted to hurt them, he does now. But that person is dead. He got the easy way out. For the first year, Devon wasn't sure how he'd continue his life. Cameron was either always sedated to the point of almost becoming unresponsive, or angry and sad to the point that he'd just sit in the bathroom and cry. The feeling of helplessness, of knowing that Cameron wanted to be dead, that he'd given up so much that he even told the bear he'd take opioids again if he could. And so Dev started doing things he didn't want to do. Checking Cameron's drawers, pockets, and his side of the closet when he wasn't around. He's angry at the medical professionals who sent Cameron home because he simply had intrusive thoughts. This had relieved Cameron, though Devon wasn't sure. In fact, he knew it wasn't right, but Cameron was so happy it seemed to stop the episode. Then, over the next 2 days, he was in a deep psychotic state. His intrusive thoughts were actually thought insertions, and by the time they got back to the hospital, he was screaming that he was actually dead.
He is once again experiencing everything at once, all the time.
I was also wondering if we jumped to a different time again.
I think we did. I think this might be...
Because it seems like this Cameron wasn't diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Yeah. And if it's saying he accused Devon of planting speakers in the walls and cameras in the mirror, which he shattered, if he's like, reliving his paranoia...
It's the previous him again.
Yeah. I wonder if this is one that never even went to Echo.
He accused Devon of planting speakers in the walls and cameras in the mirror, which he shattered. Over that first month, it was a normal sight to see Cameron sitting up in bed, brushing away non-existent bugs. But that's 2 years behind them now, and Cameron's finally starting to really live and become someone who enjoys life again. But while the positive symptoms of delusions hallucinations, and depersonalization had been practically absent over the past year, the negative symptoms lingered. Okay, so positive does not mean what I think it means. Because those are not good symptoms.
Yeah,
they just
no.
mean positives as in, like, symptoms where something is added.
Yes.
Devon had read about that over and over again. Lack of motivation, lack of interest in things that once gave pleasure, lack of expressive emotions, and moments of confusion and disorganized thought. It was the anhedonia that scared Cameron the most. It scared Devon, too, because what's a life worth living if you don't want to do things you trained and aspired to most of your life? Despite listening to music again, Cameron decided a few months back to finally hang up his guitar. Cameron's paw was still weak, and would have a slight tremor if he held it up. But Cameron hadn't touched his keyboard either, left unplugged and dusty in their basement.
Yeah, I don't know what timeline they're in, because like before we were told, you know, guitar was an absolute no-go always, and he couldn't even type with his left hand. So
Yeah,
if he was trying again,
well, he said
it's just confusing.
He said guitar.
Yeah.
He said they walked back the strong guitar statement. They're like the guitar is a huge no, at least for now.
Yeah.
So maybe eventually he got to a better spot, but he still has a tremor, so he doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, it's just hard to square away the, like, for the first year he was crying in the bathroom and blah 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 with the Cameron we just saw in 2021, I think it was.
Yeah.
With Artie. So it's like, is this a different one? I'm not sure.
The sight made Devon far more sad than it did Cameron. He still wonders if he'd been more of an advocate for Cameron, maybe pushed for further observation. They could have stopped the psychosis before it truly spiraled. Maybe he'd be his old self. Oh, look at them.
What's wrong?
You reading my mind again?
No, I can read your face.
Devon doesn't want to bring down Cameron's mood. He's the one that wanted to come out and walk around in the snow. And if Cameron wants to do something engaging and active, Devon will do it with him. It is strange that they got so much of it in March, and it would probably be the last snowfall. I'm just realizing how out of shape I am. Think I'm starting to get a gut? Like a bad one?
Aren't you on the thinner side for a bear nearing his 30s?
Cameron makes a point of looking at Devon's midsection, then prods through it, making the bear huff.
Whoa, it is kind of squishy.
Devon blushes. You caught me by surprise. And you just got done saying I wasn't fat.
You're not fat, you're a bear. I just didn't think I'd feel the pudge through your coat.
Cameron tries again, but as expected, Devon is tensed up and there's little squishing to be had this time. Let's sit down. Devon brushes snow off a bench for them.
Hey, I hope I'm not annoying you.
Devon closes his eyes in guilt, taking a deep breath. No, I'm just worried about different things. I'm happy to be out here with you. It's good for my gut, anyway. Paintfox went all in. There's so many here. Cameron rolls his eyes as they sit down.
I'm getting chubbier too, you know? It happens, and I love your body. If you want to fool around tonight, I can have a closer look.
Cameron leans against Devon's shoulder. Only if I get to have a look at you, too.
Deal, and if we deem each other to be too chubby, we can go on a diet or something.
Devon finds it strange that Cameron is the one usually cheering him up by now. The coyote is worried about him, which Devon wishes he wouldn't be. Still, it makes him feel warm inside, and he leans in to nuzzle Cameron. As he kisses the coyote, he realizes that this is a good moment in his life. A day he'll look back on fondly. A day he'll look back on for comfort when the harder days inevitably arrive. Devon glances up at the temple they're sitting across the street from. I always wondered what that golden dude with a stick is doing up there. It takes Cameron a few seconds to understand what Devon's talking about.
The guy on top of Mormon temples? That's the angel Moroni. He buried the gold plates.
How do you know that?
Some Mormon friends told me.
Oh. Cody, the bull?
Yeah.
You thinking about converting?
If they ever become okay with this.
Cameron leans close to Devon again. Devon smiles, and they hold each other for a while. Something's on Cameron's mind, though, but Devon knows how to wait until the canine's ready.
Devon, did you ever find what you were looking for?
Devon immediately knows what Cameron's referring to, and makes his stomach twist into knots. About his sister?
I'll only bring it up this once, but I keep thinking about why we went in the first place. I just wonder if you were able to, figure stuff out.
Devon stares down at Cameron, and even though the coyote isn't intentionally pointing out Devon's cascade of failures into catastrophic failure, he feels it. I figured out that it doesn't matter. It isn't worth finding out, and that I need to refocus on us. Devon feels the tingle of tears in his eyes, but forces it back. I figured out I made a huge mistake, and deeply hurt my friends.
Brian hurt us.
Cameron says it almost instantly.
You just don't seem as happy or outgoing as you used to be. I know you're really busy with work and you just got your master's, which is so cool, but you seem...
Hey, it's like you said. We change. It's not really a divide, right? It's like chapters in our lives. We change with each one, and the last one we went through was brutal.
Yeah, nothing stays the same. We don't fully recover or become who we used to be. We all want to go back to how it used to be.
Devon feels a deep twinge in his chest, thinking about what life would be like now if he just made the right turn.
It's like how they say you can never go home again, because home isn't just a place, but it's people, and it's at a certain time, and when it ends, it ends.
Baby, I love you so much. I know it sounds dumb as hell, but I can be your home, and I'll be around for as long as you want me to be, so you can always go home.
I always will. You're the only home I've got, but you know what's weird? I sense a lot from that temple, and I've sensed it in other spiritual places too. Like even those little shops where you see mediums and psychics, it feels like it's sucking in energy, like a portal.
Huh. What do you think that means?
I guess there's hope for everyone. Lupita, Artie, you and me. And that maybe instead of nothing, there's...
Devon, overwhelmed with grief, happiness, love, and loss, kisses Cameron. They kiss for a long time, and Devon desperately hopes his Cameron is right, because more than anything, he wants to start fresh again and do it right. For now, though, he's here with his husband, sitting and watching the snow fall silently, and that's okay. Because whether they disappear forever or go somewhere else, it'll be together. Devon feels a little hope reignite in his chest. There might be something. there might be nothing. But he's content to wait and find out. But that'll be a long ways away, he's sure. Not until they're 110, after all.
We did it.
We made
it to the
it.
end. That was very interesting.
Yeah.
I think they did a very good job following up on Echo while still differentiating it from Echo. It feels like a evolution of some of the themes that get started in Echo, but it also isn't just a rehash of the same ideas. It's sort of, I mean, like, obviously it's like a sequel, but it's also not. It's kind of like a side story. It's its own route in Echo. But it's interesting. There's still a lot of lingering plot threads too, and I think a lot of that ambiguity and things being left open, like the nature around Lupita and, you know, what exactly is in Cam and what that means to everyone, is open-ended on purpose, right? Like this end chapter really solidified that, is like there is sometimes trying to seek the answers and trying to reach a resolution is the dangerous thing, right? Like trying to
Which is why there's going to be a sequel now where they go punch God.
Yeah.
they VoIP into the Mormon portal and they punch God.
But at the same time, this is something that's kind of interesting. There are multiple plot threads left open, right? There is the question of what if there is, you know, we've seen these two timelines, one where Cameron died and one where Cameron lived. But we also know there is a third timeline, very specifically, where Brian lived. So, and both of them escaped town. If I remember correctly, Cameron explicitly mentions this when he's having his visions of the future. And so the way that this game sets up its continuing plot threads is by expanding the scope and going broader with this universe. And I'm sure there are people who are like thinking about like the Echo storytelling universe where everything is a multiverse and it's all interconnected. I'm not really talking about it like that, but it does take a lot of these ideas that we've seen throughout all of these stories and elaborate on them and expand them in a way that is, it truly feels like they're building towards something. And I don't mean like an Avengers team up of Chase and Cameron and they go punch a ghost. Like it's more like it's clear that these two stories, Echo and Arches, were on a very small scale. And even in some sense, the Smoke Room is a small scale. It has a lot more characters than I think the rest of the games do, and it involves like a whole town instead of just a group of friends and stuff like that, from what I understand, you know, with like a mining labor union thing.
Smoke Room might have more character sprites than any visual novel I've ever seen, just in general.
But I just am wondering if this is the end of this universe or if it will continue. Because this is setting up even more stuff like the cardboard raincoat monster, what those things were, what it meant that it was becoming more real until it wasn't. It's setting up this alternate timeline with Devon trying to hunt echoes, which is like a thing you can apparently try to do. That's crazy.
Alternate fucking universe. Devon is like Sarah Connoring the echoes.
Yeah, and it like
I genuinely didn't connect or figure out what that meant when there was like the raincoat monster and the raincoat monster impersonator. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't fully know what the raincoat monster is. And
we also get set up that is like this entity is still around and it's a piece of Echo has left Echo. And what happens when that happens? And we didn't have any clarity or conclusion to what the thing under Echo is, right? We have this UFO creature thing. We have this like giant, like spidery vision that Chase constantly has. And we have this understanding that there is something brewing in Echo, right? Like this malevolent like Pennywise the clown, Dandello type, like eldritch cosmic horror creature, potentially, that is influencing and amalgamating. It's an amalgamation.
Yeah. It's like The Shining is an interesting point of comparison, because The Shining specifically is like here's the lady from the bathtub, and here, like, there's the individual creatures or visions or what entities like reoccur as if they're continuous individual creatures, even though they're all still almost certainly
they're technically
they're all one force, seemingly.
Yeah, they're like anglers on the angler fish of like one central terrifying eldritch hive mind.
Because for me, at this point, there's the Trevor Henderson monster, there's the shadow in the forest, and like those are seemingly separate creatures, and that's separate from Sam, but also not separate, maybe. And like these are all, like, it's not just a matter of there just is one creature in Echo going around and maybe stuff happens around it. Like there's just like a whole variety of forces, but each of those are individual consistent characters or entities that reoccur.
Manifestations of a larger negative force. Yeah. And there is one thing about the Sam thing that I think is lingering here for those who have played Echo and understand the mechanics, which is, it just has to do with like violence and the taking of lives and how these entities move from person to person, from place to place. And I'm sitting here really curious how Cameron's life would be if he was not indirectly responsible for Brian's death. And that's not saying like he's responsible, he's culpable, but like I'm wondering, because this story follows so cogently with mechanics and ideas that were set up in Echo, I'm very curious about this third alternate fork that the game signposts but does not follow up on. Because I think that's really ripe for exploration, and it seems to be pointing towards that as a little bit of a misdirection. So that's really interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think the themes of like finding meaning and becoming addicted to purpose and a static sense of the world and trying to find a place in it and seek that comfort, I think that comes really full circle with the idea of like, Devon can be his home, even if the home changes and moves and is different chapters and stuff like that. But it brings into question just how much of this story on its own is just one chapter of something larger. Because I think ultimately this novel, I think it was great. I had a really great time. I think it's really well written, and it shows some really excellent growth on part of Howley and the team. I really think it feels like connective tissue. There's so much setup in this, and it to its credit, it does so much paying off of the things that it's setting up in its own right, and it's a very self-contained and well-written story on its own. At the end, we are left with not questions in like the mystery box sense, but questions in the something was signposted, and with the way that it was written, it feels like there might be answers forthcoming someday sense. And I'm really curious what they're gonna do next, because it feels like this is all building up towards something very coherent and clear now, with all of these repeated themes and with this ending. And I'm not talking about the ambiguity, I'm talking about the structure of this story. It feels like maybe Howley is getting closer and closer to writing the thing he has been working his way towards this whole time. And that's really interesting, even when you consider things like all of the repeated ideas in Arches and in Echo that show up in Adastra. Like, even if this is not some sort of, storytelling universe with lore and everything that's tied together, it's always interesting to see a creator hone in on an idea that they want to talk about, but need multiple tries to like mine and get at. And I'm very curious what we have dug up now that all of that work has been put into Echo, Adastra, and Arches to reveal this like interesting storytelling gem that we have ahead of us. So yeah, I like this a lot. I thought this was really good. It's not obvious.
It was very good.
What a novel. That was a good one, and it did not overstay its welcome at all. That was breezy.
I've been thinking about the logo a bit. Just an interesting crossing of motifs between Echo and Arches.
Yeah.
Where
an
it
arch
is
that comes full circle.
Well, it's a stone arch that's reflecting in a lake, making it look like it's a circle.
Yep.
Like,
So interesting. Well, go subscribe to them on Patreon so they can make another story.
Yeah. This was wildly compelling. I think there wasn't a single choice in the entire thing, right?
There was not. This was a completely kinetic novel as far as I could tell.
Which itself feels like almost like a thematic element compared to how choice is handled in Echo.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of overwhelmed at this point. It's too much. We played the entire Mines section all the way up to the conclusion today, and it's just I'm like emotionally wrung out.
Yeah.
I'm just a towel.
Are you ready to do a fun, jokey Overwatch stream now?
Waka waka. I think our next visual novel will be fun and jokey. Go play Glory Hounds or something.
Yeah, we'll do Glory Hounds.
Let's give ourselves a breath of air.
Something goofy. Play some, something dumb so that I don't need to feel traumatized.
Yep. Good night, everybody. Hug your boyfriend.
Bye. Thanks so much for hanging out.